My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how I discovered my entire life had been built on carefully crafted lies. I arrived at my brother's graduation ceremony with a simple intention: to celebrate, smile for photos, and play the supportive older sister role I'd perfected over the years. The university auditorium gleamed with polished wood and brass fixtures, the kind of place where success felt tangible in the air. As soon as I entered the grand lobby, I smoothed down my emerald dress, the nicest one I owned, and tried to blend in with the sea of proud families. I wasn't trying to make the day about me. This was Alex's moment, and I had long accepted that I wasn't the academic star of our family. But what I didn't expect was just how calculated their coldness could be. As I approached the reserved seating area, a student usher with a clipboard stopped me. "Your name?" he asked pleasantly. "Sarah Mercer," I said, keeping my voice light. His smile faltered slightly. His eyes scanned the list, then darted up to meet mine. "I'm sorry, but I don't see your name on the family reservation list." I blinked, confused. "There must be a mistake. I'm Alex Mercer's sister." The usher checked again, his discomfort visible. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The Mercer family reserved 5 seats, and all names are accounted for." My chest tightened as I glanced at the seating chart nearby. My parents, Richard and Diana Mercer, were listed. My younger sister Emma, my Aunt Patricia, and someone named Dr. Harriet Collins had the remaining seats. "Perhaps there's been a mix-up," I suggested, trying to keep my voice steady. The usher smiled sympathetically. "You're welcome to sit in the general admission section in the upper balcony." The balcony, where distant acquaintances and random +1s sat. Not immediate. Family. I saw my mother across the lobby, adjusting Alex's graduation cap. They were laughing together, a picture of familial pride completely undisturbed by my presence. I walked over, keeping my voice even. "Mom, could I speak with you for a moment?" My mother Diana barely looked at me. "Not now, Sarah. Can't you see we're busy?" I bit my lip. "Just a minute." She sighed dramatically but stepped aside. Alex remained still, watching me with a look that wasn't exactly warm. "I'm not on the family seating list," I said. My mother shrugged as if I'd mentioned something trivial like a change in weather. We had limited reserved seats. We had to prioritize important guests. I felt my hands curl into fists. "I am immediate family." She let out a soft, dismissive laugh. "Oh, don't make this into a drama, Sarah," Alex chimed in, voice dripping with false concern. "I'm sure it was just an oversight. No one meant anything by it. These events are chaotic." I turned back to my mother, hoping for even a flicker of regret, but she just sighed. "Don't ruin your brother's big day, Sarah. You should be grateful you were invited at all." The word grateful lodged in my throat like a bitter pill. Grateful to be treated like an outsider? Grateful to be relegated to the back rows while a professor I'd never heard of sat with my family? Before I could respond, my father Richard approached, his voice low like he was handling a minor inconvenience. "It's just seating, sweetheart. Don't make it a thing." I stood still, anger simmering beneath my skin. Not explosive rage, just something deeper, colder. I smiled an empty smile and turned away without another word. They thought I'd silently accept it like always. But this time was different. Walked slowly through the ornate hallway, my heels making soft sounds against the marble floor. The air smelled of fresh flowers and expensive perfume, and something else out of place, like me. I stared at the general admission ticket the usher had handed me. The word general, printed in bold black letters, felt like a slap in the face. I had hoped just this once, that my family would see me as one of them. But clearly they never had. Footsteps echoed behind me. The heavy door opened. "Sarah." Alex's voice called out, casual but commanding enough to stop me. I turned. He stood there, graduation gown flowing around him, tassel swinging gently, his expression anything but sympathetic. "Are you upset?" he asked without real concern. "About the seating?" I gave a dry laugh. "I'm not upset. I'm disappointed." Alex tilted his head, eyes lighting up like he'd just heard something amusing. "You're always so sensitive." "It's just a seat, Sarah. Who even cares?" I bit the inside of my cheek, keeping my voice even. "You know it's not about the seat. It's about how this family treats me. It's always been that way." He shrugged. "So what? You still showed up, still wore the nice dress, still hoped to be included." He stepped closer, his voice dropping so only I could hear. "You're desperate for their approval. It's sad." I looked him straight in the eyes. "No, Alex. What's sad is that you need to push others down just to feel accomplished." That made him pause for a second, but then, as if it meant nothing, Alex laughed. "You really know how to kill the mood, like always." Footsteps approached behind him. It was Mom, Diana, with a tense expression like she'd been dragged away from something important to deal with a minor annoyance. "I heard there's some drama out." "Here," she said, eyes on Alex, barely acknowledging me. I took a breath, telling myself I deserved an explanation. "Mom, I'm not on the family seating list. I'm not some distant acquaintance, I'm your daughter." She furrowed her brow, then gave a tight smile. "Sarah, it's not that I don't value you. It's just that we had to prioritize people who are closer." I stood still. "What did you just say? Closer?" "Closer to Alex," she said quickly. "His academic advisor, his girlfriend, people who've been there during his thesis work. You've always been independent. I never had to worry about you." I let out a laugh so soft it surprised even me. "You never had to worry about me? And you think that justifies treating me like I don't exist?" Alex jumped in, his voice syrupy. "Sarah, stop it. Mom didn't mean it like that. You're overreacting. You should be grateful you were even invited." That line cut deep. I turned to Mom, looking at her like I was seeing her for the first time. "Do you even realize how grateful sounds when you've made me feel like a stranger in my own family?" She said nothing. No touch, no hug, no apology. A deep voice came from my left. "It's just a seat, Sarah." It was my father, Richard, standing there with a program in his hand, eyes fixed on the floor, the same avoidance as always. I turned to him, speaking slowly. "I don't need you to defend me, but the least you could do is look me in the eye when you speak." He looked up, confusion flickering briefly before fading. Alex shrugged like I was a stubborn child ruining an adult party. "If you're that unhappy, you can just leave." I looked at the three of them, these people I had called family, and suddenly realized that maybe Alex was right. I tightened my grip on my purse and took a deep breath. Something inside me shifted, not from weakness but from clarity. If they had decided I didn't belong, then I wouldn't try anymore. And what was about to happen would make sure they never forgot this day. I walked quickly down the wide corridor, my footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. Behind me, the ceremony music began to play, cheerful and triumphant. Laughter and excited. Chatter filled the air, but it all sounded like it came from another world, a world I was never truly invited into. I stopped at a quiet corner, clutching my purse strap like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. Alex's smirk, Mom's dismissive shake of the head, Dad's distant silence. All of it swirled in my mind like a broken melody. And then a memory returned, sharp and clear, like it happened yesterday. 2 years ago, I went home for Christmas, the day, rare occasion when Alex wasn't around, away at a prestigious internship in London. The house in Portland felt strangely peaceful, no loud arguments about politics, no trace of Alex's condescending corrections lingering in the air. Mom asked me to go to the attic to find some ornaments for the tree. I nodded, a little relieved, to do something that felt meaningful, or at least included. The attic hadn't changed in years. Dusty boxes stacked against the walls, old furniture draped in sheets, and the smell of cedar and forgotten memories. I rummaged through the Christmas boxes and found the ornaments, but then my eyes landed on a large trunk I'd never seen before. I didn't know why, but I opened it. Inside lay dozens of leather-bound albums, each one labeled with a year and Alex, written in my mother's elegant handwriting. I lifted one out, not thinking much until I opened it. Every page was filled with careful documentation. Alex's first science fair, Alex's acceptance letters, newspaper clippings of Alex's debate team victories, detailed notes about his achievements in my mother's careful script. Alex won first place in the regional math competition. He was the youngest winner in 15 years. Alex's history teacher called him the most promising student I've taught in decades. Alex was invited to the governor's Young Leaders program. Album after album, year after year, it was Alex. Always Alex. Every achievement recorded like a historian documenting the rise of someone important. I began searching, frantically now, trying to prove to myself that I too had once been remembered. I flipped through each album, scanned every page, but there was almost nothing. A group photo here or there where I happened to be standing next to Alex, but never anything about me specifically. Not my college graduation, not the time I won, the state photography contest, not even when I started my own business. I clutched one of the albums so tightly my knuckles turned white. When Mom walked in, I was still sitting motionless on the floor, the album open in my hands. "You kept all of this about Alex?" I asked, my voice small but cold. She glanced at the albums and smiled lightly, as if they meant nothing special. I had to remember everything so Alex wouldn't feel his accomplishments went unnoticed. He needs that recognition. I bit my lip until it nearly bled. "And what about me?" Mom looked at me, her eyes unwavering. "You've always been independent. You didn't need to be documented to know your worth." I nodded, saying nothing more. But something inside me shattered in that moment. A part of my childhood, a part of my hope, and the part of me that longed for my mother's recognition. That memory came back so vividly in the quiet university corridor. Nothing had changed. I was still Sarah, the daughter my mother never thought to include in her memory books, and didn't think needed a seat at her brother's graduation. A chill ran down my spine, not from the air conditioning, but from the clarity. I sank onto a bench by a large window, right where they'd planned for me to be. On the outside looking in. I looked at the general admission ticket in my hand, then at my own faint reflection in the glass. Behind me, the graduation ceremony. Continued. Pomp and circumstance. Alex's perfect GPA, his summa cum laude honors. But I sat here, on the edge of memory, space, and affection. If this was where they thought I belonged, maybe they'd never truly known me at all. And for the first time, I didn't feel sad about that. I just felt like I was finally stepping out of the shadows they had cast over me for so many years. I was ready to face all of it. I stayed still on that bench by the window, my heart tangled between memories and the present. Everything that had just happened, the way Alex mocked me, how Mom brushed off my feelings like they didn't matter, kept playing over and over in my head like a loop with no end. "Sarah." A soft female voice startled me. I looked up. Standing, in front of me was Emma, my younger sister, wearing a simple blue dress, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. In her hand was a graduation program, still crisp and unfolded. I stood up, smoothed my dress, and nodded slightly. "Emma." She looked at me, eyes narrowing slightly like she was trying to figure something out. "Seeing you sitting here doesn't feel right." I let out a soft laugh. "Really?" "Because our family decided I'm not worthy of a seat in the reserved section. said nothing. A heavy silence settled between two sisters who had grown increasingly distant over the years, yet were sharing a strangely intimate moment. "Sarah," Emma finally said, her voice lower, "can I ask you something?" I met her gaze. "Go ahead." She hesitated, her hand tightening slightly around the program. "Has Alex ever said anything about me that seemed off to you?" I tilted my head. "Are you asking if I've heard him badmouth you?" "Not just that." She pulled her phone from her small purse, looked down at the screen, then shook her head. "It's just, lately he's been different. Controlling. Secretive. There are things he doesn't want anyone to know. And I'm starting to realize something's not right." I paused. Alex's harsh words during family gatherings still echoed in my mind, but I had never told anyone, partly because I didn't want to cause trouble, partly because I was so used to being dismissed. But something in Emma's eyes made it impossible for me to stay silent this time. "You might want to brace yourself," I said slowly, "because I don't think you really know who Alex is." She opened her mouth to respond, but another voice cut in, soft yet strangely powerful. "And if you're still unsure, then maybe his academic records can help make things clear." We both turned. Dr. Harriet Collins, Alex's thesis advisor, stood at the end of the hallway, holding a manila folder. She was the kind of woman who commanded attention without raising her voice, today in a tailored pantsuit, her silver-streaked hair in a practical bob, and eyes sharp enough to see through anything. She walked closer and handed the folder to Emma. "Look." Emma took it, her fingers flipping through the pages. First a furrowed brow, then a stunned expression. I saw her hand tremble slightly as she read. I couldn't see the documents clearly, but Emma's expression changed from confusion to shock, then to something deeper: betrayal. He plagiarized his entire thesis? Emma's voice cracked. He stole another student's research and claimed it as his own. Dr. Collins nodded. "There's more. After I discovered the plagiarism, I reviewed all his previous work. His fellowship application contained fabricated research results. His published paper included data he never actually collected." I looked at Emma. Her face had gone pale, her shoulders tense like she was bracing against an invisible weight. "I can't believe this," she whispered. "Dr. Collins, why do you have these records?" Dr. Collins glanced at me, then answered. "A graduate student came to me last week, claiming Alex had stolen her research. I didn't want to believe it. Alex was my star student, but once I started looking, the evidence was overwhelming." Emma sank into a chair, still clutching the folder. The air around us felt frozen. I sat beside her, saying nothing. Part of me hurt for her, but another part knew this was the moment when buried truths finally came to light. Dr. Collins stood there silent for a few seconds, then said gently, "Sarah, thank you for not turning away." I gave a small nod. "I didn't need thanks. I just wanted the truth not to stay buried, and from here on out, I knew this graduation would no longer go the way they had planned, and Alex would no longer control the narrative the way he thought he could." The air in the small conference room on the university's second floor felt heavy. No one spoke when the door closed behind us. Only the hum of the AC and the faint sounds of the distant ceremony slipping through the walls. Emma sat at the table, her eyes fixed on the documents. Dr. Collins stood nearby, arms crossed, expression grim. I sat slightly to the side, hands in my lap, trying to stay composed even though my heart pounded so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. The door opened again. Alex walked in, followed by my mother Diana. Mom looked confused, but Alex didn't. He maintained his usual air of confidence, though there was a flicker of caution in his eyes. "What's going on here?" Alex asked, his voice slightly high-pitched, as if he was trying to regain control. "Why are you all missing my graduation ceremony?" Dr. Collins stood up, and the look in her eyes was no longer professional restraint. It was cold, clear resolve. She pulled a letter from her briefcase and placed it firmly on the table. "You know what this is?" she asked. Alex stared at the letter, saying nothing. "Revocation of your degree," she said, her voice unwavering. "And in case you care, the University Ethics Committee has already approved it." The room fell silent. My mother gasped, her hand covering her mouth. Alex stepped back, his lips pressed tightly together. "You're joking, right?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Emma spoke up, her tone sharp as a blade. "We've seen all the evidence, Alex. Every word you stole, every result you fabricated. There's no denying any of it." "I did not—" Alex started, but Dr. Collins cut him off, and for the first time, her voice carried both disappointment and fury. "You stole Rachel Chen's entire research framework. You copied paragraphs verbatim from Dr. Yoon's published work without attribution. You fabricated lab results that would have taken months to properly collect. You called yourself the future of molecular biology while building your career on other people's work." Her voice was steady, controlled. "Want me to cite more examples?" Alex froze. I looked at my mom. She stood still, her face pale, as if she was seeing her son's true self for the first time. "Those were collaborative efforts," Alex said, his voice strained. "Between colleagues, not plagiarism." Dr. Collins gave a short, bitter laugh. "And what about the email you sent last month, asking an undergraduate to run experiments for you without credit? Was that collaboration too?" That's when I saw my father enter the room, his expression heavy. I didn't know who had called him, but his presence seemed to make the room sink deeper into tense silence. "Is this true?" he asked, looking straight at Alex. Alex didn't respond. Richard turned to my mother. "Did you know about this?" Mom shook her head weakly. I didn't think Alex could do something like this." "You never think," he said slowly. "You've never looked at what's really going on." Then he turned toward me, and for the first time in many years, he didn't avoid my eyes. "Sarah," he said, "I'm sorry." Both Mom and I were stunned. I had never heard him say sorry, especially not to me. "I've been silent for too long. Let everything veer off course." He went on. "And I know you were right about Alex, about everything." I didn't know how to react. Part of me had grown so used to being overlooked that this recognition left me breathless. "Alex," snapped. "You're taking her side," he shouted, voice rising. "Your son, the one you've always been proud of, is being turned on by his entire family over a few research shortcuts." Dr. Collins gripped the edge of the table. "Don't call them shortcuts. Alex, that's who you really are." "You don't understand," Alex shouted, his voice trembling. "I had to succeed. I just didn't want to lose my chance at the fellowship. What's wrong with that?" Emma raised an eyebrow. "Is that what success looks like? Building your career on lies?" "She's exaggerating," Alex spun toward me, his eyes burning. "This is all your fault. If you weren't so jealous, if you didn't poison them against me, today wouldn't be ruined." I took a deep breath, staying calm. "Alex, you did this to yourself. Don't blame anyone else." "You've always been the outsider in this family," Alex screamed, "always pretending to be the good one just to make Mom feel guilty. What do you want? To steal everything from me?" "No," I said, my voice quiet but clear. "I just want the truth to be seen." My mother stepped forward then. She looked at Alex for a long time, confused, hurt, and finally broken. "Alex," she said softly, "I can't defend you anymore." Alex stood frozen. His lips moved like he wanted to say something, but no words could fix anything now. He turned toward me, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in him. Not fear of being caught, but fear because he realized no one was standing by him, this time. Alex stood there in the dead, quiet room, breathing hard, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. The graduation cap that had been perched proudly on his head just an hour ago now lay abandoned on the table. The honors cord around his neck, which had wowed everyone earlier, now looked like a burden, stripped of the prestige he had imagined for his big day. He whipped his head toward me, his eyes darkening. "You always wanted to take me down," Alex hissed, his voice cracking. "You never let me have one peaceful moment, did you?" I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. But Alex didn't need a reply. He charged toward me, eyes blazing, his footsteps echoing against the polished floor. I didn't move. I wasn't afraid. And then, in that exact moment, a steady arm slid between us. It was Dr. Collins. "That's enough," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp as steel. Alex froze, stunned. "Get out of my way. You've ruined everything," he spat. "If I let you do one more foolish thing, that would be on me," Dr. Collins replied firmly. Alex panted, eyes darting around the room as if looking for an escape or someone still on his side, but no one spoke. No one stepped forward. Dr. Collins maintained her position. Emma clutched the folder of evidence. My father had his head bowed, brow furrowed, like he'd just accepted a bitter truth. And my mother, the one who once excused every little mistake Alex made, stood frozen, clutching her necklace, eyes rimmed with red. Then Alex pushed past Dr. Collins, shoes squeaking against the floor as he stormed out of the room, his graduation gown billowing behind him into the hallway. I thought he would vanish behind the door, but no. He shoved open the main doors leading back to the auditorium, where the ceremony continued, where hundreds of guests were still listening to the commencement address, where his name would have soon been called to receive honors he didn't earn. And when Alex appeared, breath ragged, hair disheveled, eyes wild, everything stopped. The speaker paused, heads turned. A murmur rose, curious, stunned, then shocked whispers. The rest of us from the conference room followed behind him. No one tried to stop him. No one wanted to. Alex stood at the center of the auditorium, what was supposed to be the crowning moment of his life now becoming the stage for the downfall of a self-proclaimed genius. "You think you can humiliate me like this?" Alex screamed, his voice echoing through the rows of seats and ornate ceiling. "I gave everything for this degree. Years of work, endless nights. And now over a few borrowed ideas, a few shortcuts, you're going to destroy me?" No one answered. Dr. Collins stepped forward, her gaze steady and unblinking. "No one destroyed you, Alex. You did that yourself." He shook his head wildly, tears spilling down his cheeks. "You admired me. I was your best student." "I admired who I thought you were," Dr. Collins replied, her voice chillingly calm. "But you never wanted to earn your place. You only wanted to take shortcuts to get what others worked for." A quiet gasp rippled through the crowd like a wave. People were beginning to understand. Some guests exchanged glances. A few professors in the front row stood up, their faces heavy with realization. Alex glanced around, breath uneven. "She made all of this up," he shouted, pointing directly at me. "Sarah's always been jealous of me, always trying to drag me down. She spent her whole life in the background, and now she wants to pull me down with her." I stepped forward, calm and steady, my voice just loud enough to be heard. "I don't need to drag anyone down. The truth carries its own weight." Alex went, silent. The tension was tight as wire. All eyes were on him. Even those who had once cheered him on, admired him, now they just stared in silence. He turned to Dr. Collins, clinging to a final shred of hope. You can't do this. I'm your student. We published together." Dr. Collins pulled the same letter from her jacket pocket, the one she'd placed on the table earlier. She held it up in front of Alex. "This is the degree revocation," she said, slowly, her voice calm and firm. And the ethics committee signed it unanimously. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. The university president gently placed a hand on Dr. Collins' shoulder. "Let's continue this discussion privately." As they turned and walked away, Alex stood alone amid rows of graduation caps and academic regalia. He had once been the center, the star, built on deception and appearances. Now it had all crumbled, right in front of everyone. 2 weeks after Alex's graduation, I woke up in my small Seattle apartment. No ceremony sounds, no distant speeches, no judgmental looks or whispered side comments. Just me and silence. My phone buzzed gently on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen. Mom, the 8th call in 4 days. I didn't answer. I'd heard enough in that conference room, in that auditorium, and throughout a lifetime of quiet endurance. I didn't need a half-hearted apology or a performative hug. I didn't need them to keep acting out a picture-perfect family just to save face. That afternoon, as I was sorting through photos for a client's project, a text came through from Mom. "I know you're angry. I can't change the past, but I want to see you. Have dinner with me, just the two of us." I stared at the message for a long time. The old me, the me from a few years ago, would have said yes immediately. I would have picked out a nice outfit, arrived on time, smiled politely, and tried to think of light conversation topics to keep the mood afloat. I would have hoped, however faintly, to hear her say, "I'm proud of you," or simply say my name with genuine warmth. But that woman didn't exist anymore. I put the phone down. No reply. No anger. Just no longer necessary. That evening, I walked along Elliott Bay where small boats drifted on the water and the city lights began to glow against the darkening sky. The crisp early autumn air carried the scent of salt water and coffee from nearby cafes. I sat on a bench and pulled out an old photo from my wallet, a family picture from my high school graduation. Alex was in the middle, wearing his valedictorian medals, grinning widely. Mom sat beside him, hand resting proudly on Alex's shoulder. Me? I stood off to the side, half hidden by my father's tall figure. I stared at the photo for a long time, then gently folded it and tucked it back into my bag. I no longer needed to force myself into a frame I was never meant to fit in. Another call came through. This time, it was my father, Richard. I picked up, not because I wanted to, but because I knew he wouldn't call unless it mattered. "Sarah," he said, his voice rougher and slower than usual. "I'm not good with words. You know that." I didn't answer. I just listened. But that day, when you spoke up and your mother saw who Alex really was, I think for the first time in her life, she understood how alone you've been. A long pause followed. "Whether you forgive us or not, I just want you to know I was wrong. And I know that doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know." I closed my eyes. No tears, no pain, just a quiet sense of peace. "Thank you, Dad," I said, softly. "But I don't need an apology anymore. I just need freedom." That night I went home, pulled out the family photo album from the shelf. I didn't burn it or tear it up. I just placed it in a box, locked it, and set it on top of the wardrobe. An era had ended, and I didn't need to look back. The next morning I booked a trip to Japan. A trip I'd always wanted to take but never allowed myself because of family gatherings or other invisible obligations. This time, I chose me. I didn't need their forgiveness. I didn't need their validation. And most importantly, I didn't need their love to feel worthy. Because now I knew my worth doesn't come from someone else's gaze. It comes from how I see myself. Family might be where we come from, but it's not always where we belong. Real family is made of those who respect you, listen to you, and don't make you fight just to be seen. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Not to run, but to find yourself. Sarah's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who see you the least. The most destructive lies aren't always the ones others tell about you. They're the ones they make you believe about yourself. But true freedom comes when you finally see that the approval you've been chasing was never worth having in the first place. What would you do if you discovered your life was built on carefully crafted lies? Would you stay for the comfort of familiar pain, or walk away toward the uncertain promise of freedom? Share your thoughts below, and remember, sometimes the family we find matters more than the family we're born into.